Season 2 of SWORD Online Alternative Gale Online anime is on the horizon with the craziest of shenanigans, and it will cover what is considered to be the best content the AGGO series has to offer, the third squad jam, subtitled Betrayer's Choice. A story that is as wacky as it is filled with more double crossings than your favorite spy movies. Welcome SAO survivors to Gamerturk's book club, and today we'll be diving into SWORD Online Alternative Gale Online Volumes 4 and 5, the third squad jam, Betrayer's Choice by Keiichi Sikawa, as you can imagine from his trademark sentence-long book titles. And what's a trademark for our channel is the good old LLENN squad. This was a beloved community meme back during the Fatal Bullet days, where we'd simply enter into an all LLENN squad lobby to have fun together in our pink rabbit suits. So if you want to be one of us or simply enjoy the design, LLENN squad t-shirts, hoodies, stickers are available on my Teespring page, among others like the SWORD Online the First Day. For that, there's even a poster available. Make sure to check out my Teespring page, link down below in the description. To give you a quick overview without spoilers for those who don't want to be spoiled, please make sure to leave a like before leaving before the spoiler section. The third squad jam covers the third squad jam in GGO. Pretty much all the previous teams and players return for this one way or another. LLENN, Pitohui, Fukaziroh and M for the first time participate in the squad jam together as Team LPFM. The Amazons, SHINC, return under Boss aka Eva's leadership as before, and their appearance is the main drive for LLENN agreeing to participate in these shenanigans for a third time. If you remember, it's a promise Kohiromaki Karan made to Nitobe Saki when the Amazons did not get a chance to fight LLENN and Fukaziroh in the dome back in the second jam, and instead lended their aid to them in order to save Pitohui. In this one, LLENN offers a proper fight to SHINC to set their record straight, but that is only the beginning of the story, with twists and turns literally everywhere. Other familiar faces return as well. Memento Mori, led by David make their formidable appearance. If you recall, David was bluntly destroyed by Pitohui in the second squad jam by the Photon Sword that he deemed just a toy. Keep that in mind. It has left quite the mark in his memory, and he certainly did not have the best opinion of Pitohui to begin with, always thinking that the girl was completely aloof and all disinterested in who her allies were. He is about to have a huge shock towards the climax of this arc, but I'll leave the surprises for the spoiler section later down the line. I'll just say that the antics between Pitohui and David have been my favorites throughout this arc, and yeah, they do get plenty of time together. More on that later on in the detailed summary. The utter maniacs, ZEMAL aka All Japan Machine Gun Lovers, are just hilarious to watch whenever, wherever they appear. Their previous appearances, particularly in the season 1 of the anime, was quite the cookie cutter, portraying them as the meme tier enemy that nobody takes seriously. They are a meme for sure, but they are not a team to be underestimated. If the upcoming season 2 covers their shenanigans closely enough, you'll get to see why and certainly enjoy every moment these lunatics are on your screen. Clarence and Shirley return, and they do not really have much presence in this arc. They really are the low spotlight characters still, but the one appearance they have, that is the absolute shining moment of Volume 4 that otherwise can get stale a bit. The duo absolutely have one of the most brutal moments in the series that is just as memorable as it is exciting. But I got a bit ahead of myself there, commenting on Volume 4 before covering the last major returning team. The surprise winners of the second squad jam, Team TS. Now, the anime barely hinted at this. I believe they did it the right way, to be honest. They really were not deserving of any screen time back during season 1, and the anime included this in a way that only the perceptive viewers would recognize by keeping track of the 3 to 4 shots they received throughout the entire second squad jam. But the way they won that tournament was that they simply climbed the outer barrier of the map and found bicycles on the huge wall, and they were basically continuously evading any confrontation, letting everyone else duke it out on the map while staying far away in safety. They only participated in fights when it was basically time to sneakily steal the last kill against an unsuspecting opponent, which is exactly how they defeated LLENN at the very end as well. They were the true battle royale tacticians. I too won multiple games of Fortnite by literally hiding in a bush for 30 minutes and then only killing the one final guy. Of course, due to that cowardly tactical approach, because of their tactical approach, nobody believes in them to do anything significant in this tournament, but they are adamant at proving themselves as a formidable team by going for their second consecutive win. However, let's say this time around they made a slight miscalculation. I guess you can say they became as formidable as the iceberg that sank the Titanic. Trust me, that is less of a metaphor than you think it is. Look forward to them for sure. So, on a surface level, this seems very much like more of the same, right? The same characters, the same teams, more or less the same teams, the same motivations for the characters. You'd be right in thinking so, because that's exactly what the author Keiichi Sixawa thought as well. And as a consequence, so did the stand-in sponsor of Squad Jam in the in-universe story. The one change to the format will end up turning the table and throw everything into utter chaos this time around. That appended rule is, by the sponsor's suggestion, at the point that only 6 to 8 teams remain, a new rule will be announced and put in place. It is designed to be enjoyable for both participants and viewers. Please look forward to it. But I promised you twists and turns to the story, remember? The rule change that sets up the second half of the story is huge and even on its own would have spiced up Volume 5 significantly. But what do you think happens when every single maniac in the story has their own personal agenda and will do everything in their power to mess up with the rules just to create more chaos? And that is the defining factor of the third Squad Jam, Betrayers' Choice. That's where the story truly begins, halfway into the arc, and puts everyone on a massive collision course. Again, quite literally, are you picking up on these very deliberate hints? Either way, that's as far as the non-spoilery bit goes. Volume 4, it plays like a Looney Tunes show. It is more of what you expect without any curveballs. In fact, I could tell you the story in detail and you would not be any more spoiled than if you hadn't heard anything about the story at all. You got tons of these funny slapstick comedy sketches, and I want to stress the word sketch here. Every single scene, well connected in a rough ongoing narrative that doesn't have much, feels like a brilliant comedy sketch. A skit that heavily relies on that slapstick, instant absurdity comedy, and because of that, I was not particularly pleased with Volume 4 when reading, knowing full well I'd have a blast whenever it would get adapted into an anime. I think it will be an incredible anime adaptation, but as a light novel, well, I don't think a full-on text media suits such a fast-paced slapstick comedy. There's just too much downtime between the jokes, too many explanations and elaborations until the next punchline hits, that the slapstick mostly just loses its impact in the light novel form. And quickly, a brief non-spoiler section for Volume 5, of course, for those interested. Alternative Gale Online Volume 5, the second half of the story when the arc truly begins with the rule change. Now that is absolute top tier comedy and betrayal all around. Once the rule changes and nasty tricks kick off the true adventure to be had, we still have the hilarious slapstick comedy, but between the jokes we don't have much downtime or explanations. The quote-unquote breathing moments in between the funny bits in the Volume 4, they get replaced with full-on exciting action and hard-hitting deception, and now that's an entire book that does not stop for a single moment and continues moving forward for the impact full steam ahead. Volume 5 is a book that you can just buckle up and read up in one sitting. It is exciting, action-filled, treacherous, hilarious. It's everything you'd want from Alternative GGO dialed up to 11, coasting out of control with its helm broken, a massive cruise ship on a... That's it. That's it for you, non-spoiler people. Remember that if you want to read the books for yourselves, either wanting to get ahead of the anime or you're watching this video after the anime airs but want to get the full view in Which case, my AGGO Explained series is a good avenue if the anime releases early enough. Links for both AGGO Volume 4 and 5 will be in the description as light novels. Make sure to check them out, smash that like button, comment if you have questions. Do I need to say anything else to stall for time before moving to the spoiler section? LLENN Squad merch. LLENN Squad merch. We got that too. Okay, that should be long enough of an intermission here. Now, the spoiler portion with a more extensive summary. Not to disappoint, but when it comes to Volume 4, the first half of the story, I actually don't have much to say. In the non-spoiler section, I described it as a collection of skits. That's basically what it is. Volume 4 is basically a collection of skits. Not that there is no story at all, but you know, it's the same thing I say whenever Fatal Bullet is a talking point. Playing a game is not a story. Okay, I can do better than that, slightly. LLENN had no chance of not participating in the third squad jam. On one hand, she was pressured by Nitobe Saki, the leader of SHINC, the Amazons, whom she promised to have a proper fight against, but sadly, obviously, could not deliver on that promise back in Squad Jam 2, but Pitohui this time around was also on top of the matter on the other side of the argument. Unknown to LLENN, Pito had kept close contact with Fukaziroh, while LLENN was a bit more shy about meeting with Pitohui ever again due to reasons. So as a result, LLENN got pulled back into the scene and Team LPFM was born. On the other side of things, their main opponents were more or less the same. I covered that in the non-spoiler part as well. Memento Mori led by David. Oh my god, stop, we're not there yet. David. Memento Mori led by David. The Amazons, SHINC, previous winners, Team TS, the Lunatics, ZEMAL, and other familiar faces that were part of non-mention worthy teams. So, for the spoiler bit, the focus is on the nameless ones for you this time around. You see, there's a thing most people can do when they know the previous champions or serious contenders will be spawned on the four corners of a map. Even though they won't know which team is in which corner, they still know there is a contender at each corner. And I guess you can consider that's where the Betrayer's Choice title comes into play for the first time in the saga, albeit being mostly a red herring. While there would be a big new rule change announced by the sponsors towards the mid portion of the game, the big hurdle during the early game would be the contender teams. So a group of players, they basically sold out participants in the lobby before they spawned in, and basically set up a plan where players from each quadrant of the map would rush to their nearby corner as a group to ambush the contender teams, and once that was achieved, they just scramble around the map and continue the squad jam normally with their remaining squads. A perfect plan, isn't it? Except they did not know Team TS, who was ashamed of their cowardly victory, was in the crowd without their robot uniform, so they were mistaken as regular participants too and were called on board the plan. And well, that's basically it when it comes to Volume 4. That is the plot of that specific volume. There is not much of a story to go through here. It is basically a collection of skits experiencing how each team managed to one-up their own ambush. It's all great stuff, everyone has their own style, which makes it feel really fresh despite experiencing it 4 times, and it's all a massive carnage for you to enjoy. But anything more and I basically have to just narrate the exact scenes and jokes, and I don't think that's what a spoiler summary should be, just basically retelling the book. There's a lot for you to enjoy throughout this carnage, and I firmly hold on to the opinion that all of it will be all the more enjoyable in fast and frantic anime format, rather than reading it as a light novel. So I'll just jump straight to the result of the ambush. All teams have their own style, as I said. Team LPFM focuses on a lot of out-of-the-box thinking, maybe inside-the-box thinking, I should say. Just very creative usage of state geometry and objects, and they are greatly helped by a lot of sheer luck as well. And funnily enough, their exploits are not even the highlight of their battle. It is a fight to the death that transpires between Clarence and Shirley, who You may remember them as quite a deranged maniacs in their own right back from Season 1, and that fight is basically the main treat I am looking forward to in the anime adaptation when it comes to the Volume 4 content. There's a lot of betrayer action going on in this one too, but still, it ain't the main betraying. I swear, 6 Hour is just going 4-layer deep meta writing here. Not only are people betraying each other in multi-layered ways, but the narrative constantly throws these red herrings your way, knowing full well you'll think, ah, so that's why the title is Betrayer's Choice. I get it now. No, you don't. The story itself keeps betraying you left and right too, and that's one of the main aspects that keeps this entire journey fresh. I'll quickly make a jump to Volume 5 here, since the other teams' experiences are briefly covered there as a prologue before the chronological ending of Volume 4. Unlike Team LPFM, who noticed the ambush coming because the randos were using flares to organize immediately after the first scan and reacted to it, Team SHINC, they never get to notice the existence of such a plan to begin with. Generally in Squad Jam or Bullet of Bullets from the main series for that matter, people wait until the first scan to plan their moves out, see where everyone is. SHINC, being the maniacs that they are, they never cared for a plan and started bum rushing every other team with brute force even before the first scan, and got the upper hand without ever letting others organize in the first place. And once enough time has passed, they noticed the flares going up and understood there was some sort of a plan, so they used the flares they stole from the players they dispatched already, and used the flares to lure other teams one by one into what they thought was a grouping effort, and easily took them out too. MMTM in comparison had a short but very nice tactical win. They luckily spawned in a forest area, which caused the entire blueberry plan of using flares to crumble, so nobody could organize against them properly, nobody could shoot the flares up in thick forest, and even if they could, nobody would be seeing them anyways. As a result, MMTM's leader, David, lured all the enemies in the forest by bait firing his weapon, while the other MMTM members in their ghillie suits took everyone out using no guns at all. What about Team TS? After all, they knew about the ambush plan beforehand, and they could thus formulate their own countermeasure, right? Now that they absolutely did. They spawned in a city area, so their choice was pretty clear. They were the champions of Cowardice after all. They found the tallest building, got to its roof, and they basically sat there safely until the remaining groups got bored. They were very high up on top of the apartment, so grenades did not reach them. They held full control of the building corridor, so nobody could really come up that way. They eventually did celebrate once all the ambushing teams started heading away. What they didn't realize, however, was that they were not leaving because they were bored. You see, the third Squad Jam featured a mechanic that you'll recognize from all the other Battle Royale games that you may have played, the storm cloud in a sense. The players this time were on an island with the sea level rising up constantly, and Team TS, while jubilant at the time thanks to their perceived tactical victory on avoiding the ambush, they realized it a little too late. When they eventually did, the entrance of the building they were on was now fully submerged in that poisoned water. The team was now practically stuck on top of an apartment that was sinking for the remainder of the game. Alright, and then there's the Maniacs. Well, technically everyone's a maniac here, but ZEMAL, the machine gun lovers. They were just having a lot of fun, having attached their machine guns to shopping carts, and they were literally zooming around the map hunting people like that. And that takes us to the chronological ending of Volume 4, the main twist being the rule change. With all of those shenanigans, only 6 teams remained at the end. LPFM, SHINC, ZEMAL, MMTM, Team TS, and a random team called Toms. And the rule change is, one member from each team will be selected, not at random, and transported to the center of the map, registering as a new official team, the Team of Betrayers. These players would be purposefully selected by the admins, consisting of roughly the best players of the individual teams, and create a Betrayers versus original team scenario, although the team-based free-for-all would still continue. the selected players would receive a message on their personal terminals telling them to jump on a drone. With that, the transport drone arrives. David from MMTM hops on board, sharing his pride in his now former team. Boss bids farewell to the Amazons, hoping that LLENN wasn't chosen as well so that she could still have her fight against her. The lunatics, they were just lunatics. They found the premise really exciting for no particular reason other than looking forward to having more crazy gunfights. Team TS saw this as an opportunity to save themselves from drowning on top of the apartment eventually, but it turns out the drone sadly cannot lift off 6 people or even 2 for that matter. Team member 002 eventually bid them farewell and promised to make the team of cowards proud while crying behind his helmet. Team Tom's, our new random arrival, was quite sinister. The chosen member, Cole, promised to work with betrayers to defeat everyone else, only to double-cross the team of betrayers and then take himself out too, so that Team Tom's would be crowned champions in this tournament. He was already thinking way ahead. And back at Team LPFM, LLENN was too scared to check her terminal 2s to see if she was chosen, but luckily she didn't have to. Pitohui exclaimed that she was chosen as the betrayer of the team and hopped on the platform. Eventually, all 6 drones reached the exact middle of the map and landed on top of a completely beached cruise ship. And with them creating a party together for voice chat, the real Betrayers' squad jam officially begins. Now, the next quarter of the book is the original teams trying to get on the ship to challenge the Betrayers as the water level keeps rising up on the map, and the ship will soon become the only safe spot in the entire map. But on that front, do not expect cooperation just because they have a common enemy now. All the teams are still very much enemies, and throughout the entire period, even LPFM and SHINC are constantly at each other's throats, eventually making it into the ship on the lower floors just before they were overrun by the rising water. Not to say Team BTRY, abbreviated from Betrayer, is sailing smoothly. For starters, nobody trusts Pito, especially David, who still holds a grudge from the time she teamed up with them even before the times of the first squad jam, a person who does not care for who's an ally, it's all people to shoot at for her. In fact, David was quite surprised to find out that this image of the woman she had was actually quite false. She did remember him, and not from the time when he called her Photon Sword a toy back in the second squad jam, but from that initial team up they had ages ago. And what's even worse is that David now wished she didn't remember at all because of how she kept trying to get on his nerves every single time by proudly mispronouncing his name every single time she gets the chance by yelling David! On the flip side, Boss from SHINC wanted LLENN to be spared for her, but of course that was a conflict of interest with Pito as well, who also wanted to fight with LLENN. All the while, Cole from Tom's waited for an opportunity to betray the betrayers and take them all out. Well, the ZEMAL dude was just waiting for targets to shoot. But as they were doing these team building activities and trying to keep the other teams out, Team TS member 002 asked for the help of all the betrayers. With the ship seemingly functioning and sinking only very slowly, he did see an opportunity to save his teammates and begged Pitohui to chart the course for the building they were trapped on in order to save them from drowning. And to everyone's surprise, Pitohui graciously accepted, and the ship started sailing full speed ahead in that direction to save them from drowning. And with all of those team dynamics being settled in the Betrayers team, the rest is the usual AGGO craziness once more for a while. Minor team-ups here and there in desperate circumstances, most of which don't have much to spoil once more, you know, just your typical action comedy sequences, and that lasts until... well, until everything goes full crazy out of absolutely nowhere. However, at this moment, the craziest plot points that I can go into right now are also the full-on punchlines that the story was building towards for 2 volumes long. So, I am hesitant to spill them all out for you in full-on detail. Like, narrative spoilers, I'm perfectly fine sharing in a spoiler section. The ship, the betrayer's rule, the individual plans and motivations of the members, those are all fair game in my mind. I warned you of spoilers. But I cannot get myself to ruin a dozen different incredible punchlines that are built throughout 2 entire books. So in this spoiler section, please understand, but I will be cheating a bit in an attempt to not outright spoil entire jokes and their punchlines. That's what the entire climax is about. So, as we start reaching the end, here are only the plot aspects without ruining all the fun, and as a result, they may be a bit too vague. So, number 1, a big surprise for everyone. Pitohui does indeed save Team TS from drowning specifically. Well done on that, Pito. Looking forward to it. 2. Despite constantly trying to underplay Pitohui's photon swords as mere toys, Mr. David over here is less calm and collected than he looks. Unlucky for him, he learns that no matter how crazy he goes, he simply is no match for Pitohui's craziness. Next one. Not all the betrayers actually looked at their terminal before jumping on their drones for transportation. But they certainly did not expect the transport drone to never validate the identity of the person who stepped on their carriage and transport them regardless whether they were chosen or not. On the flip side, not all team members checked their terminals to see if they were chosen or not as well, so the final portions of the chaos, which was already filled with double, triple and quadruple crossings, it grows even more chaotic. Next one. Towards the end, a massive quadruple fight and performance marks the climax of the book that you are bound to be thrilled by, and be prepared for an ending like the Titanic movie, which also comes with bait and switches like the earlier betrayal stuff. But that is all I will share from that final quarter of the book. Once again, I'm sorry, but as a fellow shitposter myself, I just can't. I can't get myself to spoil the events that are essentially extremely dramatic shitposts after dramatic shitposts. That is my red line. When you watch this video, you'll probably have a release window in your hands for that season 2, as I plan this video to go live shortly before the Anime Japan 2024 stage for the Alternative GGO Online season 2. So all I'm gonna say is look forward to it, because it is going to be one hell of a boat ride. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this review. It's written in a less of a traditional review style that I do. I'm not constantly breaking away from the story to tell my opinions explicitly, but the way I describe them and my voice, hopefully it conveys how I feel about the story as I was going through the story itself. Feels like it is the best way to blend both a summary and a review together, unlike my previous Moon Cradle book club. Do let me know how you feel about the format overall. Enjoy the upcoming season 2, and stay cool.